Okay, so today we are going to like in the last session we did not discuss more. So today I will explain you betterly. Okay, so we are going to start the Oracle RAC today. So firstly, I'll discuss about some differences, means like why we use the RAC in the environment. Okay, so suppose in current scenario, suppose we have a single instance database in our environment. Okay, and this is the single instance database. Okay, this is your machine. This is your database, we can say. Okay, so basically, how the user connect to the database, how it will work. Let me show you in this single environment. Then I will show you the rep diagram. So suppose this is a user, okay, who is trying to execute something to the database. Okay, so firstly, what the user will do, user will connect to the database instance. Okay, this is the database instance. Okay, so where they will try to connect first, and this is your DB. Okay, so they will try to connect. If they will try to execute something to the database, definitely they will try to connect to the you know connect to the database instance first. Okay, so instance, suppose they are executing a query like select star from something like that. Okay, so like select star from employee or any table name. Okay, they are executing from here. So firstly, what will happen? It will go to the instance, your SGA, right? And then it will fetch the data from the database, right? Retrieve the information, and then go to the instance again, and then go to the it will show to the user. You know that the single instance architecture, database architecture, how it will work, right? It will go to the instance where it will check if there are any it will perform the semantic check, syntax check, right? Semantic check, execution plan using the optimizer where it will check the resources and everything, right? So it will check and then it will generate a plan. It will fetch the data from the actual database and then perform the sorting and merging for the database and then show that output to the user. So simply if we say, so it will work in your single instance database. This is your single instance database, right? So, and how our RAC will work? RAC will work like, suppose this is your first database. Sorry, not the first database. This is your first instance, okay? And this is your second instance. Okay. And here, suppose we have our database. Okay. So how it will work in a RAC environment? How it will work? Like in single instance, whatever the resources we have on the single instance, like it's using that resources only. If suppose there is something happen with your system, okay. So what happened? It will go on. Like whatever the things you are performing in single instance environment, it will gone, right? So, what happened? It will not be available for the like perform the activity or perform any transaction with your database, right? So, what happened here means it will not be available. There is anything will happen, it will not be available to do anything. Means what happened in current environment? There will be a downtime required, and also as you know, in the current environment the every in whatever the company, like a big size company or anything, they are using Oracle database, so they don't want any downtime, right? Even if there is any slowness or anything, they will directly send the request or they will raise the changes and everything to like resolve it. IJDBA, you need to check, you need to resolve all those things like the performance and everything, why it's working slowly or why it goes down. So for those like thing, like if there is happen with a single instance, so definitely you will have a like downtime. But in RAC environment, what happened here? Suppose we have a this is your like node one, right? This will be your node one. This will be your node two, right? And this is your uh, DB, right? And how your node one will connect to your DB? This is the structure for your database for the RAC. So suppose here in single instance, what's happening? If there is anything happen, your system will goes down. It means your database will get disconnected from the application. Okay, so all the like whatever the work is going on that database, everything will go down. You cannot perform anything. But in RAC, what happened? In RAC scenario, what happened? If there is anything happen with your node one, okay, so your next node, or we can say the other node, will be available to perform anything, right? So if there is anything happen, suppose your node one will get crash, right? So if your node one will get crash, it's not available, right? It's not available. Then even your node two or next, whatever the node we have, okay, so those are available to perform the activity. Means it will be available. So first thing, if you talk about the first thing in the RAC, so it's provide like maximum availability. Means it's provide the availability, right? So it will be available 24 by 7 support. So there is anything happen on node one, your next node or other node will be available to perform the activity, right? So this is the first thing which for which the RAC is used for. But as you know that if we are using anything in the RAC, like if you are using a single machine, okay, so if you are paying, suppose, means I'm saying on normal basis, suppose for a single machine, if you are using and you are paying the 10,000, definitely if you will use the two machine, definitely you need to pay more. Okay, so in current scenario, or if we can in the real world, so nothing is free of cost. So if you want like the best technology to implement in your environment, definitely it will be costly and you need to pay for it, right? So if you are paying for single machine, if you are paying 10,000, definitely for two machine or whatever the machine, if you are using, you need to pay more. Okay. So in RAC, if we talk about the RAC, so that's the first thing which we are like seeing, that is called the availability, right? And second thing, if we say, uh, not the second thing, here if we say we will discuss today the four things like availability, okay, and load balancing, okay, and performance and scalability. So firstly, I would say if we are going to learn Oracle RAC, okay. So before that, we need to know about the Oracle DBA first. We need to learn the Oracle DBA first, at least what is Oracle DBA and everything. Then if you are good to like go for the Oracle RAC, then I think I'm not saying like without Oracle DBA knowledge, you cannot go for the next level, right? So this is the Oracle RAC. So already we have discussed about this, and it will work like maximum availability, like it will provide the maximum availability first. As I said, is there anything happen with the one system, the next nodes will be available for like the perform the transaction or perform the activity or fetching the data or anything. Okay, so yeah, it will be costly, but it will provide you the like that the provide you the facility, a good facility. Okay, so we have discussed about the availability. Go to the load balancing. So uh, suppose if we have here like if we talk about a single instance, suppose customer is saying here current in current scenario we are getting around 100 of that the 100 or like 1,000 connection is coming to the single instance database, right? So it's capable to handle the 1,000 connection for now. Okay, but what happen the business in future if business will grow, okay, and the connection will be like that the increase from 10,000 to 1,500 or 2,000. So in that scenario what will happen, it will not allow you to connect to the database. There is a performance issue, there is that the sometime in environment we will get like something like timeout or anything. Also it will not allow you to connect to the database, right? So in that scenario, what happen? Your database will get crash or it will work very slowly, right? So if it will work very slowly, so in that scenario also, as you know that in the environment, you will get the ticket and everything like I'm not able to connect to the database, I'm not able to perform anything. Okay. But in company, it it's like as a DBA, everything will comes to you, right? You need to handle all those things, the connection things and everything. But as you know that the system is prepared for the 1,000 connection only, but due to the business growth, right, the connection will get increased. Due to that, it's failing or your database will get crashed. But in RAC, what happened? Whatever the 1,000 connection will come to the this will come to the this database. Okay. So there is a method called the load balancing, which will handle those connection or those load and will distribute those connection as per this load balancing method. It will distribute the connection. There is some connection to the node 1, there is some connection to the node 2, and it will distribute those connection and that it will uh, transfer the 500 connection to the sorry to the node 1 and 500 connection to the node 2. Okay, so this is called the load balancing method, where it's like whatever the connection will come, whatever the things will come to the database. Okay, so it will uh, the handle all those things, and it will transfer those connection to the node 1 and node 2. But before that, it will check the load on the node 1 or node 2. It may be sometime what happen, there are many connection who's connected to the node 1, but there is nothing is going on. There is no more, that the like the transaction or anything is going on, but there is a less connection on the node 2, but connected to the node 2, but there are many transaction or many things going on from the node 2 only. Okay, so it's not like we cannot say it the load is depend on the connection only or the session only. Load is depend on the like that the what types of connection is connected to the node and what type of transaction or what type of like query execution is going on. Okay, as you know that whatever the transaction or connection is connected and whatever the transaction or query is work like execution is going on those nodes. So those query or transaction will use the resources, right? So resources in the sense, suppose on the node 1, we have the like 16 GB RAM, right? And 500 GB storage. So leave it. But if we talk about the RAM, we have the 16 GB RAM only. Okay. And there is the 1,000 connection is allowed to connect to the database and do, okay. But here we have, suppose here we have the 16 GB RAM, okay. And we have the like 16 core CPU. Here also like we have the 16 GB RAM, but we have the 16 core CPU, right? So this is for the single machine only, right? Which is connected to the single database. But here we have the database, but this node is also having the 16 core CPU and 16 GB RAM. The second node also having the same size, like the 16 GB RAM and 16 core CPU. And if you want to add a third node also, you can add the third node here. Okay, also that node will have the 16 GB RAM, 16 core CPU. So definitely this RAC environment will perform, or we can say, but it will work, leave it the performance part. Firstly, we need to discuss on the load balancing. So it will transfer those transactions as per those load, which I have said, like what else, there are some of the query which will use the resources. Resources in the sense, if you see my like architecture video on YouTube, so I have explained all those things, like how the query is working in if suppose we are executing a query, how it will work in the SCA, how it will like that the optimizer will decide to the create a plan for that query and how it will fetch the data. So how optimizer will decide like which there are, as you know that for a query there are like multiple way to fetch the data, but optimizer will decide by which way it will use a very like that the minimum like the RAM usage, it will use the very less of the like CPU. Okay, so optimizer will decide on that basis on which way it will utilize the very less like that the resources. Okay, so on that basis, optimizer will decide that way and it will allow that query to fetch the data from the database. Okay, and then after, as you know that in the PGA, it will go and perform the like, like sorting and merging, then it will show the data to the database, right? So here is the same way it will perform. But here we have the resources, we have the multiple node, we have the very much resources, okay, okay, to fetch the data from the database. And also those connection or session, whatever the connection, suppose we are having here we have all 1,000 connection with the single node one, right? But here we have the multiple node where load balancing will decide to distribute all those connection or like that all those loads according to the transaction and load, and it will distribute those transaction as per the node, that the node load. So it will check where the like, where the load is very less. So it will decide on that basis. Automatically, it will transfer that like that query or that session on that node one. Okay. So that is called the load balancing, where it will like check all those things and it will transfer the session or connection to that node. It will check where is the very less, like, the load is going on that basis. It will transfer those loads from, like, that it will transfer that load to the, or that session to the best available node. Okay. If we go to the performance, so as I explained, like in single instance or single database or single system, if we talk about, okay, so if we have a system with the 16 GB RAM and 16 core DB, like 16 core CPU only. So suppose in real time, if we talk about, suppose we have a single mobile only, right? And we have all those connection and everything in that mobile only. And suppose someone has, like, you have all those your data and everything in, that we have some storage, or that the chips, right, where we can store our some of the data, and also we can store our like connection or numbers in the, uh, SIM. Okay. Suppose someone has like destroy your mobile, or what happens, suppose your mobile is fell down in the water and anything. So your mobile will get crashed. Okay. But so what will happen? You will not be able to connect to anyone. But if you have the two mobile or more than one mobile, okay, or multiple mobile. So if there is something happen with your one mobile, the second mobile is available. So you can easily swipe your SIM from destroyed mobile to your available mobile, and you can easily connect to the person, right? So same thing happen in the RAC environment. He, like, here we have only 16 GB RAM and 16 core CPU with the single machine only. And if there is anything will happen, your database will go. You like, here we need to, that we need to ask for the downtime to fix all those things. But in no for RAC, what happened? We have the 16 GB RAM and 16 core CPU here. We have the 16 GB RAM and 16 core CPU here. Also, if you have the third one node, also you have the same resources here, right? So if whatever the connection or things is coming here, we have the, like, we
Satish,
have the, yes.
16 for RAM, 16 for CPU means is total 32 GB of RAM. You're
No,
saying,
no,
right?
no, no. CPU means, CPU is different thing. RAM is different thing, right?
Okay.
If you go to your system here and if you check your system, what I can say, let me show you.
Means you're talking about hard disk space.
No, no, CPU. Also, your system have the CPU in your system, right? If you are running here, you can see, like, RAM is 32 GB, right? And this is the CPU. And if you go to the performance here, go to the task
The
manager.
screen is not visible, Satish. I think you are.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. So if you, let me reshare this. With my screen is visible, no?
Yes, 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 sir.
Yeah, so here you can see, like, it shows like CPU, 32 GB RAM and everything, but you will not get to know how much CPU. So I have the Core i7 and everything, but if you go to the task manager, so task manager, how? From here you go to the task manager. So here I have opened the, sorry, go to the task manager. Okay, so here you can see, here we are able to see the, like, CPU and how much utilization is going on, and if you go to the uh, just a second here, so here you can see like how much CPU core I have. Processor is it. We have the 4 core CPU, right? And yeah, here you can see I have 32 GB RAM, where that much of utilization is going on. Here that much of CPU utilization is going on, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so here you can see this is the CPU core. So also your like system performance it depend on the CPU. Okay. So
And
in
I got
yeah, if you go in the uh, when you like as a DBA, you know that you have performed the like what I can say the EXPDP. On that time you use the parallel, right? Pa- So you use the like parallel parameter during the EXPDP, right? So why we use the parallel parameter to perform the parallel execution. So it will take the export backup fast, right? So what it will perform? It will perform the backup parallelly, and it will try to take the backup with the multiple sessions. Okay. So parallelly, it will like the initiate the one more session to perform the export backup fastly. Also for the RAM also where we use the multiple number of channels, right? So in that situation, also they will use the resources parallelly, means like they will use the resources parallelly, whatever the number of channels we will apply, that much of resources it will initiate parallelly to perform the backup fastly. Okay, so if we in RAM or sorry in RMAN, we use the channels to perform the backup fast, and in EXPDP we use the parallel parameter to perform the backup fast. So in that scenario, what happen if we use the multiple channel during the RMAN, or if we use the parallel parameter during the EXPDP, so it will try to initiate the multiple session, or we can say the multiple execution parallelly. So in that situation, it will use the number of resources, means like whatever the session is using for the single execution. If we execute the multiple execution together, so definitely the like resource utilization will go high, because it will use the parallelly, it will use the multiple number of like resources for the multiple the parallel execution. Okay. So also like, so here we are talking about the performance. So as I said, like we have the multiple resources with the same configuration, so definitely all the resources, all the connection will transfer to the node 1, node 2, or whatever the node we have. And definitely comparing to single node, all the node will have the number of like session is very low. Like if we have the like here the 1,000 connection which with connected with the single instance, but if we have the 2 node or 3 node, the connection will distribute, right, with the 300 or 400. We have the same configuration as we have on the single node. We have the same configuration for all the node here. Okay, but here we have the multiple machine to connect with the single database and with the same configuration. Right. So here what's happening? Definitely it will perform fastly because we have the less number of sessions on each node. But we have the same configuration like the RAM, CPU, and everything. Definitely you will pay more